Alright, so in this video I'm going to be diagnosing a Reddy heater Pro 110. It's a 110 BTU kerosene heater which I have running on diesel. So what I've gone ahead and done is I've removed all the little bolts that hold the top cover down, and I'm just doing all this ahead of time so I don't make this into a very long video, which it might end up being anyways. So I'm going to take off the cover here, which exposes the fan. I've also gone ahead and I've removed the back cover. I'm just going ahead and doing all this in steps so I can cut the video time down again. But anyways, the fan is pretty hard on this. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this thing out. And what I'm going to be doing is exposing the pump here, which hopefully I can capture on the camera. Right there. So I'm going to go ahead and inspect this really quick just to see what's going on. Alright, so I finally removed the guts here, the inside of the pump, and you can kind of see from looking at the back here, it's really grimy. So that's what was causing the fan and the whole assembly to freeze up. So I got to clean all this up, and now that I'm looking at this, it looks pretty decent. It's not scored. Can't really get a good zoom up on that, but it's not scored or anything like that. It's just really dirty. Alright, so I finally cleaned up the inside here. I got it really nice and clean. There's a little bit of marks there, but those are pretty much from the disc, pretty much just rubbing on there. So there's going to be some shiny spots on here. So as you can see here, there's a recessed part on this disc here, and then the other side is smooth. The smooth side is going to go to the housing in the front, or the intake. So but the recessed part going in first. There's only one way of sticking this thing in there, and it's pretty much self-aligned. So I got that in there, and I'm checking to see if there's any drag on there. There's a nice there's actually a nice little gap there, nothing too big, so I don't have to adjust the ring here. So since I'm able to turn that all nice and freely now, I can insert the blades with this thing in there. If you try to insert the whole thing as a whole assembly, you'll end up dropping some blades, and they end up going in here, and you could end up losing them. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the little blades, and I'm going to just pretty much just put one at a time. And these go to where it's flush. You can't put in, there's a wrong way. If you put it this way, it won't work, because it'll leave a nice little, it won't be recessed in there, and it won't be flush with the disc. So there's only one way you can put these. And then I'll go ahead and put the other one, and then I'm going to go ahead and rotate it and make sure that it's all nice and clean. The way to know when it's nice and clean is when the little blades actually fall into place. So this one just dropped, that one dropped, that one dropped, and that one dropped. So they're all nice and loose in there, and it's just the rotation of these and the blades falling down, and then the manifold, the way the holes are drilled in there, that create that suction and also compression. So that's the compressor. So what I'm going to do now is just slide the manifold on there. I know that some people will put some kind of lubricant in there, but You got to remember that if you use lubricant, and what these heaters were made for was extreme cold, just remember that any lubricant that you put on there is going to stay, or is actually going to harden or get thicker as the weather drops or the temperature drops. So that's the reason why to put this whole assembly dry. If you're going to use it like in mid-weather, it's alright to put some lube on there, but very, very lightly. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab, there's no wrong way of doing this. This one has my old heater actually had a metal line connected to the intake, or to the manifold itself, and this one has a hose. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the hose back on here, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop in my bolts. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've tightened down my housing. There's 6 bolts here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the fan assembly here just to make sure that everything's nice and free, and it really is. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick spin here. I don't know if you guys can hear the suction and the compression. I'll go ahead and turn it and maybe you guys can hear it. So it's working. Now I'm ready to put the manifold on here. So it's just 4 bolts. There's actually going to be a gasket and a screen, and the manifold, or the manifold housing and filter, and that's it. So one thing that I failed to mention really quick was you got to make sure you clean all your intake and your compression side, and I've already done that, so I'll be putting my filter on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my cover, which is clean. I'm just going to go ahead and install that, and then I'll just go ahead and put my 4 screws. On this model it takes 4 little screw bolts on here, and also can't forget the filter. Make sure your filter is always clean. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I got some movement in the fan, which I do, and I can hear the compression and the suction. So all I got to do now is assemble the top half of this heater, and I'll be able to test this thing out. Hopefully it works. Alright, so sometimes when you start them up, they'll start them up, it'll start up really quick, and I guess the real test comes on the second firing, so I'm going to go ahead and get it fired again, and hopefully it starts. Alright, so I've let the heater run for about 15-20 minutes, and it ran really good. Heated up, got up to temperature. Now if you get a humming noise when you plug yours in and you've cleaned out the filter and it still does that, you might want to check the bearings on the motor. You might have to take off the motor and grease the bearings. That's fine. You can use grease with that. I was going to talk a little bit about the settings and how to run it on diesel and all that, but I think I'll leave that for another film. But just to show you guys, I mean, I knew what the problem was before I even took it apart, because when I bought this thing off of Craigslist, the guy sold it for really cheap, for like, I think I paid $50 for this, and it was pretty much all dusty, so I figured it's probably that, because I've had that happen to me with my other heater. And if all else fails, if it just hums and everything's clean and the fan turns freely, it's pretty much going to be the motor. My previous one ended up burning up the windings. As for PSIs and how to adjust all that, you can just look at a manual for that, but I just wanted to show you how it's taken apart and cleaned, because Not a lot of manuals will touch base on that, and they just pretty much tell you to clean the filter. And also, there's no gasket for the ring that hooks up to the manifold. It's just a flat surface. It's really flat. There's no gasket needed. But anyways, that's it for this video. I want to thank you for watching, and see you guys on the next one.